All right, welcome back to the Rally Report podcast. Got one of the original guests on that what I thought was one of the best episodes we've done on the pod to this day. And that had a lot to do with Andrew's transparency, which is always appreciated, but could not be more excited to have him back on. And even better, it's fucking fantastic to see him pursuing a professional career post-college, since the majority of our last conversation was surrounding that. But yeah, let's get it rolling. How have you been, Andrew? How's it going?
Thanks for having me back, Sean. Yeah, I really enjoyed chatting last time. Glad to see the podcast doing so much better since having far better guests than me since the last time we talked. So that's a positive note.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I guess it's nearing a full year since you graduated, but just want to get your take on, how the tour's been treating you. I think it's been a bit under the radar, your rise in the rankings, currently ranked at 63. Obviously having a hard time for me keeping up with this weekly ranking change nonsense, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, give us your first take on your first year on the tour. I know you've had some reservations with the professional circuit. Where's your headspace at?
Yeah, it's been a real up and down year. It's like, as you said, we talked a lot about deciding to play pro and all these things, and yeah, it's been tough, but it's also been rewarding at other times as well. Especially during the summer. I graduated in August, actually.
Oh wow! So, okay.
Yeah, I graduated because I did a master's after, so I graduated in August, and then I was doing some thesis things and research during those summer months. And then I thought the first half of the year went really well for me, and then for a number of reasons and just internal and external issues, I've just kind of struggled the past few months, honestly. Yeah, it's been definitely an eye-opening experience of what the tour is like and what it is truly like for someone, at least where I am ranked, because that's all that I can see. But yeah, it's been both eye-opening, exciting, challenging, all the above.
Yeah, I think that's good. So you're doing majority challenger tours right now, probably trying to crack out of that and do the platinum events. But what has been the biggest challenge or frustration going through that? I mean,
I think there were a lot of challenges. I think that one of the toughest points was so I in October, November, kind of before that, I had some decent results, and then I decided to go to Australia, I went there for a month, actually, from
that was
November
really good
to November to December, and it was kind of a big investment, and it was a large amount of time and effort and energy that I was dedicating to traveling and playing. And I went there and I played some of the best squash that I've played, and I was moving well. I wasn't injured mentally. I was there. And I kind of got up to, I think, 52 or so in the world, 53, maybe somewhere around there. And then, I kind of come back and I was just dead, I felt like I'd worn out my squash. We'll talk about a social battery. I'd worn out my squash battery, both physically and mentally. And it just was tough because not the sad thing, but the reality of it is, no matter how well you do, there's always just another tournament. There's another event and another event. And, I think, the darkest point, not dark, but the saddest point was after that point where I felt like I'd really played some great squash and I was excited to hopefully get into the bigger events. I went to Houston for a challenger event, and it was just brutal. I played a semifinal with, swear to God, 4 people in the crowd. And the referee was a 13-year-old boy from the club. And in the end, I'm not saying that this is abnormal on the tour. That's very normal. But it just felt like, well, shit, this sucks. I'm not enjoying this. And I guess I let myself get into believing that kind of I'd gotten past that. But, it definitely changed my perspective and, on what squash is for me going forward as a pro.
Has that dejected you a bit, or where are you at right this moment with it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it didn't deject me. I think it's just the reality of it is you have to just always, regardless of what the tournament is, there's always another tournament. For these top guys, even if you're winning, I guess Diego's winning every tournament now pretty much. If you're Diego, there's still another tournament maybe next week or I don't know, 2 weeks from now. And you have to just be willing to put in every single event. And I think that for me in college, it was always, and even in juniors, there was always like a very clear amount of time and like end. Like I was, okay, I'll try really hard for this one event, then I'll have like a month, and I
Mm.
think that was something that I really didn't account for playing pro.
Oh, the
It
week
really
by
is,
week.
it's just
Yeah.
constant. Yeah, it's just constant. And I don't know if that really suited me. So I think now I'm learning to pick and choose a bit better and honestly just try to enjoy the events more than just try to like focus on playing as many as I can or just, getting so burnt out.
Yeah, actually, I think I had a couple questions regarding why you aren't playing every event, which is, I guess, right
Yeah.
on this topic. So how do you go about picking events? So it seems like the whole trip there was a big investment on your end, but
Yeah.
clearly it seems you have more of a strategy going into how you pick out events.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the old there was this whole big debate of PSA around like the divisor and how that incentivized players to play every tournament, which I think was true because you basically wanted as many shots at winning as possible. And if everyone was playing every event, that basically made it an arms race to play as many events as
Mm.
possible, which is what ended up happening. And I felt like, well, I'll just enter a bunch of events. And I tried to enter most of the events, and you know, it's also kind of for me. I think it's definitely like place specific. Like if there's a place that I really want to go, I think that incentivizes me more to go. Whether it's like, but if it's like Houston again, like I don't think I'm going to Houston, or I don't want to go to no offense to Houston, but it's a shit city.
Uh,
Yeah, there's just like I think that's the biggest thing is trying to find something else that I enjoy other than just showing up for an event and feeling like I have to be there.
Another topic that I wanted to get into with you was the whole, and I think you said the whole 13-year-old reffing your match
Mm,
is objectively
yeah.
crazy, but I know reffing has been such a controversial thing as these past couple of years in squash, but what has been like in the Challenger Tour? Has that been a
Yeah, I mean,
challenge
I
for
think
you?
it's obviously it's a mess. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I had an event in September. I mean, like I played in a match where a guy hit me in the face 3 times with his racket. Um,
Oh, jeez.
Maybe it wasn't intentional. I have no idea, but I was by the end I couldn't see because my eye was so swollen. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's a mess, but what do you expect? Like this is my thing with the refing and like especially the players that like constantly post on social media complaining about it. Like we get it. Like Asal is he's 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 cheating. To a certain extent he's cheating, but also like there's just not going to be anything done about it. Like he's playing within the rules of the game just as all the players that are doing the same thing on the Challenger Tour are doing. Like the rules are written in such a vague way that they are doing what's within the rules.
Mm.
So I don't understand why there's this constant complaining. Oh, like it's ruining the sport. It's ruining the sport. If you look at the rules, that's exactly how it was written. There's like it's written in like scenario form. There's not any clear like there's not any clear rules about how much space is too much space.
Mm.
Like you're allowed to take up as much space as you want. Basically, there's no rule about that in squash. So that's my biggest thing is I hate seeing people on social media constantly complain about it. Like that. I don't know how you feel. I don't know if you're allowed to say how you feel about that, but um, like I agree with them, but I also think that it's useless and annoying.
Yeah, no, there's part of me that's just was always entertained by that, the whole assault thing.
Yeah,
But we're
yeah,
getting to a point where it's getting a little repetitive and it's
yeah,
the same old story. But I mean, it was funny because I had lined up a question about, I was very curious to hear your take on the assault thing because it's either this or that of you're a huge supporter and you think there's a conspiracy theory and everyone's out to get him. And there's the other part of it, which is he's absolutely ruining the sport and needs to be banned at all times. But
yeah. I think, in my honest opinion, I think there's two things going on. I think that he clearly has not either no one has told him, which means he keeps an incredibly tight and incredibly unintelligent circle, or I don't know what's going on in his circle. Either no one has told him that what he's doing is self harming, or he or he just doesn't comprehend that. Because like if you watch him play, I do think he's the best player in squash. Like I just don't see how you can. Obviously someone can beat him, but I do think he's the best player, and I think that you know I don't understand why he's doing it. So I think there's that, right? Like I don't understand why he's doing it. It's clearly either like some mental issue he has, or he just can't control himself. And then the other side of it is, I think players. I think part of it is just like I think that it's going to get more competitive, and I think it's going to get more physical. And I think I watched Joel Macon play him at Canary Wharf. I thought that was totally fine. Like everyone was like, "Oh, such ugly squash, such ugly squash," but they both played within the rules. Was it like was it super clean, as we would say? No, it's not. But at the same time, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's better than Joel going on social media and saying, "Oh, Saul's not giving me a line." Like, at least do something about it if you're going to talk on social media.
Fair enough, yeah. Usually, yeah. I think he made a clear point that he's going to play the exact same game that he's going to play, I think, before even the match started. I think in the interview before. But, yeah, there was a lot of divided opinions about that match. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just don't – I can't comprehend why Asal behaves the way he does. I think to be that good at that age as well, I think there must be a lot of stuff going on in his brain. So I don't know what he's thinking about. And I also think Joel, made a calculated decision, which I respect just as much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to kind of hear about your experience. Has there been any controversial or heated match you've been a part of since you've joined the tour fully? Because this is one of the Instagram questions I've asked.
Yeah, probably the most controversial was against this big Egyptian guy, Saif El Shanawi. That was probably the most contentious match I played. And yeah, it was definitely terrible and miserable. And at the end of the day, like, what my coach, Stu, who was talking, he's like, yeah, like, honestly, I'd rather not play squash that way either. And I think that that's true. I would rather not play squash if that's the way it's going to be played. But at the same time, like, he really wanted it, and I don't think that that's necessarily fair, but as long as the rules aren't going to do anything about it, that's what's going to happen. Like, the player, if you're willing to go to that extreme, like, there's nothing stopping you, especially in the Challenger Tour when, like, you've got other players refereeing. And, you don't want to start, if I'm another player refereeing, someone that I know, even remotely, I'm not going to give them conduct warnings or conduct strokes.
Yeah. Do you think players take advantage of that?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of dirty matches, but I actually haven't really seen any that were that outrageous. I haven't seen any that were that outrageous.
Okay.
The worst and the funniest one that I saw was that same guy, Saif, playing Bernat, Spanish guy.
Yeah.
And the match ended by conduct match, maybe, because Bernat, or he was down, he was going to send it to 5, then Saif like blocked him out pretty aggressively to go up maybe get 10-all in the 4th, and Bernat just like took his racket and swung it at his head. And I think the guy just ended the match. Yeah, and it was a funny end to the match, but it definitely didn't make me want to go play him either.
Which is completely fair. I wanted to kind of rewind the clock here, and I'm fully assuming that you're absolutely so sick of hearing this question, but never really got your full take on the CSA Championships last year, which I'm sure was a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah.
But now that a year has passed and a full season has happened, thought, it might be a right time to get your thoughts on what was a very controversial decision and what was running through your mind throughout that entire experience and how you moved on from that, because you had to jump into individuals pretty much the week after.
Yeah. Yeah, it was by far it's still heartbreaking today. And a lot of that feels like, I think even though 5 players have to lose, it does weigh on me specifically, I think, because I had match balls and I felt like I could have closed that match out. So yeah, on the one hand, I do feel some responsibility, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like I let my team down in many ways. But I'm also incredibly grateful. Like I look back on being with that team, and I'm certain that none of the other players on opposing teams, whether we beat them or lost to them, had the same experience that we did, and got to feel the true emotions of being on a team and going all in, and the emotions of coming so close and losing.
Mm.
Like that is something that I think that I am really grateful for. Because looking back, I'll be honest, like nothing that I do in squash from now on will compare with that day and the emotions of that day. So yeah, I look back on it, and I look back on it fondly. I look back on it because we were all together, and just being on, like, honestly, I would take that day and being back on that team and in that environment any day. Even
Mm.
if we had to lose every single time, and feel that pain over and over again. I can't, I'm the biggest advocate of college squash.
And I guess this week, so like, what was your take on this season? And are there any concerns that you have with the CSA, since there has been a lot of discussions with the level dropping off? And
Yeah. Yeah, I
do you
don't
agree,
know.
do
I
you, do
mean,
you agree with that take, or like completely disagree with where
level
this?
dropping off. I think that last year was quite a high level. Like you had
Mm.
Yusuf and Victor both in the finals, guys who are now top 10-ish in the world. That's pretty abnormal.
Mm.
And I don't think that you should expect that to be the norm going forward. But I think the level was still quite high. I watched a couple of the Penn matches. I watched them lose to Harvard at Harvard, which was obviously another heartbreaking match.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Um, I was watching the live scores when they were playing at nationals, another heartbreaker. So, I'm confident. I hope that they get a national title with guys that I still know on the team. That would
Mm.
be something that would be really cool for me, and all the guys that I played with, and now the guys that have just graduated. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I still think the level is going to be pretty high.
Mm.
Like you had, who won this year? Who won? Trinity kid, right? The kid who
Yeah,
just won.
Trinity
Sharaf.
kit. Yeah, Trinity.
Yeah,
Mohammed Sharaf won. Yeah.
yeah, he won.
I guess I want to kind of go back to the, not to harp on the heartbreaking loss here, but
And
how do
asked about what I thought of the refereeing decision.
uh, well, yeah, why don't we kind of talk about, what was funny to me when we look at the clips that no one really talks about is you didn't challenge that decision much. You went straight back to the service box, but I think there was a
Yeah, but
decision before that you were not happy about. If you
yeah.
do,
Well, I
yeah,
think when you're in the moment, you're just like, I think you train yourself to. He's not going to change his call. Just move
yeah,
on. And I think that generally I try to do that. Sometimes I'm unsuccessful, but generally I try to be, realistic about the fact that the referee is not going to change their call. So I wouldn't read into that too much. I think obviously looking back, I don't remember it honestly. Like I was so locked into the match that I don't really remember ever feeling like I had won, even though people were like, "Oh, you thought you had won." I will say that the guy who was reffing with the referee, I saw at a junior tournament, ref entire finals matches, three age groups of finals matches on a low tin without noticing. So I will say that he might have a screw or two loose when it comes to his squash knowledge.
uh,
But honestly, I don't really. I don't think about that too much. Like
mm,
I lost the match; it was a toss up. Um, I'm not going to like bicker about the calls because it is what it is.
yeah,
There's nothing I can do to change it. And if I had won an extra point, we wouldn't be talking about it. So I don't know. It's
fair enough. Yeah,
it's
fair
squash
point there.
refereeing. Like it's squash refereeing. You're talking about. It's sad, but it's the truth. The refereeing in squash is not done by people who have trained for years in their
Mm,
craft. At best they do this as a hobby, and that's not knocking them. Not saying they don't try their best, but if you look at the guys that try to be NBA refs or the guys that try to be any big sports referees, those guys like work their pretty much
you have to
their
pass
entire adult
exams.
lives.
They get
Yeah,
paid well. Yeah.
yeah, real exams. So I don't know. Like I don't know really what I can say about it other than
Mm. Yeah.
Like it sucks.
Were you locked into the individuals tournament right after, or were you like, fuck this, I'm so checked out?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to play at all. But yeah, it was definitely super depressing. I don't think any of us wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But it was nice to. I think we again like we all felt the same way.
Mm.
And I actually ended up playing pretty well. I played first round. I played okay. I think I played Omar El Torki, and then I played what's his name? Marwan in the quarters,
That's
and
a
I actually
tough
played
match.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I played really well there, and I won 3-1. And then at that point, I played Victor again, and frankly, like, I'm not saying that I lost the match before I went in, but I was happy with where I was. I did not want to play squash again for another, couple of weeks. And that was that. I was also just, yeah, emotionally pretty drained.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, he was the better player for sure.
I think one thing I wanted to ask you was, I remember last time we talked about how back in the day you were very competitive in the way like how people were moving up the rankings, and that had bothered
Yeah,
you, and then you kind of that kind of mindset kind of shifted. Obviously, there's so many bunch of you who are playing at such a high level right now in that year of post
yeah,
grad guys, and they've all been. I mean, it's like it kind of disregards how you've been moving up the rankings, how fast they've been moving up the rankings.
yeah,
Does it give
yeah.
you more of a hope of like, I know I can compete with these guys, I know I could play at that level, or is it more of like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I honestly don't feel much about it, and
Mm-hmm.
and that might be telling in itself. Like you're right. I used to feel a lot of like, I can be right there with them. I can be at that level. Why, like not why am I not there, but I can push up to that level. And while I think that on my day I can still play at that level, I do think that especially in the past year I've become more focused on like what I want out of squash.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like I think people forget it's a career, you know, and that means like means a lot of things. And I think that I'm trying to put this in the most succinct way possible, but I just think that I don't know. I'm trying to not say anything that I'll regret. Um, cut this out hopefully. No,
You can, I can cut it
no, no,
out.
no.
I just want you free flowing on where your thoughts are on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I go in between thinking that I've honestly changed a lot as a person in the past 2 years from where I was when I was maybe 18, 19, even 20. And I think that squash has changed me, and I think that like being on tour has changed me. Because if I'm being truly honest, like do I want to be grinding out tournaments regardless of their level 5, 6 years from now? The answer to that is probably no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that on the one hand, I've become super grateful for the tournaments that I do play in, where it's like, regardless of who I'm playing or where it is or what level it is, I'm honestly just happy to be playing still. And while that might sound like I'm not ambitious, like I'm obviously still competing and training as hard as I can, but I think that seeing those guys at that level and seeing what it takes from them
Yeah.
has kind of given me perspective on what I want and maybe how that somewhat differs from what I would have wanted 3 years ago, and maybe what those guys do. I don't know what they want either, so I'm not trying to put words in their mouth.
I kind of want to ask you some blunt questions. Hopefully it's not too fucking rude,
Yeah,
but
no,
say that you have hypothetically, say that you have a
yeah,
couple good tournaments, say that you win a couple, and then you break into say that you move up to like 25 by the end of the year next year. Do
yeah.
you think that'll change where your mindset is, or do you think you think that you're pretty stuck on how you're thinking right now with this?
Yeah, I think so. I think part of it comes down to I think getting to that level for me would require a change of lifestyle. Like right now I work two jobs in addition to playing pro squash. Right now I probably don't do the things that are really required to get to that top level, really paying attention to like all of your sleep, all of your eating, all of your this, all of that stuff. So I think that getting to that level would really require me to change my lifestyle.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. And I think that I would be willing to make those changes. I think that's a tough one because obviously if you could just transport me there and say, "Oh, you're top whatever in the world," maybe I would feel differently. I don't
Mhm.
think I would, just because I spent so much time thinking about it. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that just like the fact that just in order to get there, there's a whole set of, what's the word? Not barriers, but a whole set of changes that I would need to make to my life that I really don't feel inclined to do, is the bluntest way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fair. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so fascinating to get your take on this because I'd say either
Yeah.
99% of the players from that 99% of batch won't communicate this of what you're
Yeah.
feeling, or
Yeah.
it's either the tunnel vision of I have what it takes
Yeah.
to be world number
I
one.
actually never know how many other players feel that way um, or don't, because like I love playing squash, and I love competing, and I love being able to still play regardless of whether it's a 10K, a 20K, 70K. Obviously, at the bigger events, you kind of get better amenities. You're making more money marginally. I'll give you that, but you're making more money. Um, so yeah, I never quite know. I mean, maybe it's just I'm jaded in some way, but yeah, I don't think that my life would change that much if I were suddenly making second or third rounds of platinum events.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, how are you juggling? Candidly speaking, how are you juggling this financially? Are you like, has it been
Yeah.
difficult, or has like sponsors just
Well,
been
so that
pouring
this comes
through?
back to I literally have not received $1 in sponsorship money, and I would love to know if someone could tell me how to get sponsors. The only one that I know that's actually quite good at it is Spencer. Spencer has legitimate sponsors that aren't like fake family friends. Like he has real sponsors that like I think actually they have like a symbiotic relationship where he gives them something and they receive something in return, and there's like a real exchange of something.
Mm.
um but no, I don't have a single sponsor, and I think that was, I don't know if we talked about this last time we
Mm.
spoke, but one of the big things for me was being able to support myself financially, like fully. And I kind of felt like if this is supposed to be a career, then I should at least be able to break even, and survive.
Mm.
Um, and I think that, yeah, that led me down the path of like searching for things that I could do to make money in addition to playing squash. And I didn't want to coach squash. I'm not very good at it, nor do I really enjoy it. So I didn't want to coach. So I went down like a number of different paths trying to find things that I could do and play.
Mm.
And actually, it's been financially, I probably overshot a little. Like if I was just trying to purely break even, I probably was doing too much work. Um, but at the same time, like I really struggled just to play squash.
Yeah.
It's mentally really tough for me, and socially really tough for me. And um, yeah, I mean, I have a huge amount of respect for the players that do it, because I don't think people understand how fucking boring it is. Like it's really boring and really monotonous and really mind numbing. And like there's no like there's no stimulation either, like intellectually, or there's some. I mean, you're playing for that hour, and then that hour you're stimulated. But um, yeah, I think that I have a huge amount of respect, because in order to be that good, you have to be super disciplined and like
Mm.
willing to go through that level of boredom.
That's yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, it's a great take. Andrew, how involved are you with the U.S. Specter Center and them trying to build a hub there? I feel like I've spoken to enough of the U.S. players, both on the male and female side, and it seems like everyone has a slightly different approach with how that operation works. It seems like some have some reservations. Would love to just get your day to day.
I don't have any reservations. My day to day, I'm there every morning for a most mornings at like 7:15 for a gym session. And I go to all the group sessions. I love the group sessions. Bang, he runs sessions for whoever's around. And I love those. And yeah, that's pretty much my two main involvements there is the group sessions. We'll play matches, and the gym sessions. So that's like 85% of my training right there. And yeah, so that's I don't feel a whole lot of like investment in like this becoming, some sort of future home of US champions. Like that doesn't really do it for me for whatever reason. I just don't feel super invested in it, but I think that it's an incredible place to have. And I think that it's, and honestly, I really enjoy it. Like I know there are people that are reserved about it, but I'm definitely not in that camp. I think that for me, it's worked out phenomenally. It's like a 15-minute ride from my house, and yeah, and I enjoy. They have a sauna there, which is nice. The gym sessions are great. Yeah. Gym sessions are great. Group sessions are really good. So yeah, but you're right. I know that some people have like a bigger amount of buy-in to like the future of the center, whereas I don't know if I have the bandwidth or just the interest in really like putting myself out there for that.
Well, I kind of wanted to wrap it up with, I know you have there's a lot of events coming up. I guess your squash bandwidth has to probably be there for this, but we have the nationals coming up pretty much real fucking soon. And then I also know that you qualify for the PSA World Championships, which is pretty much the epitome of the biggest event in squash. But yeah, how are you feeling about those tournaments?
Yeah, I'm excited for nationals. I mean, that's always a big event for everyone that plays in the US. So I'm excited for that. And Worlds, I'm also excited for. Those are like making Worlds was definitely a big goal, just because it feels meaningful regardless of the sport you play or anything like that. So I'm glad that I'm playing in Worlds regardless of who I'm playing or how I do. So I think that's something I'll be proud of. And yeah, I mean, I'm not playing too much after that, but yeah, I'm definitely trying to wind down the season for sure.
Let's go. Well, best of luck to those events. And honestly, I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. But Andrew, as always, fucking appreciate your honesty on this. Always love the discussions.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.